being born a woman in Iran is an act of resistance, but I think that being born a woman anywhere in the world is an act of resistance. So stand by me, stand with these women, stand with the resistance, stand with Maryam Rajavi. Woman is an act of resistance. Those are the most powerful words I have heard in a long time. Let's get right into it. I'm in Paris this week. I was invited to the International Women's Day Conference, a women's leadership and imperative for a free Iran, a democratic republic. I didn't really know what to expect, but I came because I knew that I really needed this. I needed to fill my cup with like strong women who had a voice and were using it and weren't afraid, but I wasn't really sure what to expect. But I went because I've learned so much about Iran in the last few months that I feel compelled, because everything that is happening in Iran is happening across the world, but in different forms, and it all boils down to gender equality or gender inequality. And so what struck me and what strikes me constantly about the resistance that most people don't know is that it's led by a woman. And so let's get right into it, because there is so much bad information. For 47 years, and I'm going to get a lot of this wrong, so don't come for me, just correct me and work it out. I'm a chronic exaggerator, so bear with me. For 47 years, the regime has been in control of Iran. They are a brutal, murderous, misogynist regime that has killed over 1 million people, destroyed so many lives, and really caused a lot of pain. The similarities between the regime and their early days and the United States is too similar for anyone to ignore. And so the more I learn, the more I understand that this is not an Iran problem, this is not a United States problem, this is a global problem. The regime has been terrorizing people for 47 years. Well, the resistance is all these different factions of people. Each faction gets a vote, and those factions have democratically elected a woman, Maryam Rajavi, to be their leader. She has led them for decades. She's one of the most powerful and impressive, kind woman I have ever met. The way that woman can lead a room is absolutely inspiring, but at the same time, the way that her eyes light up and her eyes wrinkle on the side and her smile is so bright when she sees the people that she loves and the way she embraces them, that is a good woman. That is an incredible woman, and she has been chosen by Iranians to lead in the resistance. So everything that you're hearing is wrong. Yes, the regime is oppressing women, but the resistance is not. Now, prior to the regime, 47 years ago, there was a Shah, and he was also a pretty bad dude, to say the least. And so extremely violent, extremely torturous, and very, very bad. And so Iran wanted to get free from that. In fact, they killed the Shah, and that's when the regime took over. So fast forward to right now, why does all this matter? Well, here's what's happening. The regime is on its last legs. They're publicly executing people. They're putting body bags in the streets. It's absolutely horrific. My heart goes out to every single one of those people involved. And a lot of the people he's killing right now are younger people who are under 30, under 25, because he understands they are the real threat. He understands that. But it's on its last legs. The Shah, who took off with everybody's money when his father was killed, has been living in the United States in Las Vegas, and hasn't spent any time in Iran, is not of the people, and is not doing anything. So what's happening now is, now that the regime is starting to topple, the Shah's son is popping up and going, oh, well, this is what the people of Iran, they want a Shah. So much so that when they are doing protests and demonstrations all over the world, Berlin, everywhere, they are literally taking the videos, overdubbing the audio, and exaggerating the amount of people that are there, and saying that those protesters who are literally against the Shah's son, and they're saying that these people are for the Shah, and they're overdubbing bad audio, and they're really trying to manipulate the narrative. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, right? And so why does all this matter? Well, it matters because the United States is about to bomb Iran over this idea of protecting its people, but a true Iranian or a true patriot or a true person or human of any nation doesn't want to see its own people being bombed, right? The Iranians are not cheering on Israel or the United States to bomb themselves, right? What they want is the third option. So there's two options. There's interference, and that's from Israel, the United States to come in. And then there's appeasement, and that's what they've been doing for I don't know how many years, a long time. And they basically, the whole world has been giving the current regime a bunch of money to not build a nuclear program. Well, we see how well that worked out. So the lobbyists, the contracts, the deals, the tariffs, they are a multi-billion-dollar organization, and they have sucked all of the resources and money out of Iran and put it in their pockets. And so the appeasement, the NAIC and all these people, they really want to keep this going because they are actually part of the regime. They're not part of the resistance. They're part of the regime, but they're in suits. Right? And so it's really, it's actually pretty simple on how the rest of the world can support by tariffs and other things that I'm not smart enough to speak on. But the women that I spent time with this weekend most absolutely could. But the regime is on his last leg, and the Shah's son trying to claim ownership. And so now more than ever, it's even more important for all of us to understand what's happening in Iran so we can speak to our lawmakers about it intelligently and know exactly what to say. So this week, this event included, it was a side event where we had some, a huge table with all these women around it, these 37 women, including myself. What an absolute honor. I didn't even know what to expect. I just went and I had a nameplate and everything. I felt so undeserving of being there, to be honest, because listen to who was there. The Michel Alliot-Marie, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Defense, Justice, and Home Affairs of France, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, the Ambassador to Denmark, the former Prime Minister of Finland, the President of Ecuador. I mean, the list, it goes on and on and on. 36 other women from around the world who have been supporting the Iranian resistance since the day that they were introduced to it. In fact, Donna Hughes, the Professor Emerita, I probably said that wrong. I didn't go to college, don't shoot me. Department of Gender and Women's Studies, University of Rhode Island. She has been a part of the Iranian resistance for 30 years. She's been attending this event. 30 years she has been coming together with Maryam Rajavi and all the women in the resistance. And the thing that takes my breath away is that the women in the resistance is so many women, and there are lots of good men in the resistance too, but the resistance is really led by women, and it is powerful, and it is working, and that's why the regime is scared, and that's why the Shah's son is trying to take credit. But let's get into this event and why it matters. I did an interview with Linda Chavez. She's the former director of the White House Office of Public Liaison, and I'm going to publish that episode in the next couple of days. It was a good one. But it reminded me that, the loneliness of the ones who stand tall is real. And this is a quote from one of the women at the event. And I didn't write down everybody who said it, but I wrote down all the quotes. And that is the truth. And so you have women who have, all these women, they have decided, some of them 30 years ago, some of them 2 years ago, and all the difference in between, that they saw what was happening in Iran, and they said, this is not right, and this is about gender equality for the entire world, and not just Iran, and so I am going to fight for it. I, the Minister of National Defense of Portugal, I'm going to stand tall with Iranian women. The member of the Italian Senate, the member of the Chamber of Deputies of Italy, the chair of the board of directors for the European Lawyers Foundation. All of these women have learned about the resistance and decided to join it, even at their own expense, at the expense of the opinion of their colleagues in Washington and beyond. That means so much to me because I have been so heartbroken by so many people not even willing to be socially uncomfortable or have difficult conversations, never mind stand up and fight and be a part of the resistance and be on the right side of things and fight for equality and justice. And so I just want to read to you some of the quotes, because these are the things that I really took away that really just shook me to my core. Women are not property. Freedom is never given. Fight beyond borders. Don't beg for mercy. Demand freedom. Dream to be home. Dream to be home. A lot of people around the world are feeling that right now. equality without exception, unimaginable courage, because that's what it takes. Clarity of vision is important. And I'm going to stop there for a second. Maryam Rajavi has a 10-point plan to lead the resistance into the future. So here's the plan. When the regime topples, the resistance takes over. The resistance has elected a 6-month temporary government based on the 10 principles that Maryam Rajavi has created. So as soon as the regime is toppled, the resistance will take over, the temporary government will take over, and then within 6 months later, they will have a fair, secular, and democratic election to elect the next leadership. And what really took me aback this weekend listening is Maryam Rajavi has been part of this resistance for, decades, right? Leading this resistance. And this 10-point plan. However, multiple times it was said that once the regime is toppled and there is a fair and democratic election, even if the people do not choose, the general population does not choose Maryam Rajavi or the 10-point plan, they are more than happy to step down and create the new future together. And that to me stood out so much, because they're not saying this is it, this is the right way, the only way. They're saying, listen, we've come up with this plan and then we want to have a democratic election. And even if that means that we lose that election and it's not what people want, so be it. We want to at least have the opportunity to vote. We want a democratic nation and we deserve that. And I think that's incredible. Imagine devoting your whole life to something, your whole life, celibacy, no marriage, no children, none of that, to fight in this resistance and to help people and to see the suffering, and you're basically signing a death sentence. When you join the resistance, you know that there is a chance that you could die. You know, a lot of us aren't even willing to make comments on LinkedIn because we don't want to lose favor with clients. And these women are out here knowing. You know, I was talking with Zalal, and like when she joined, she was 19 years old, and the other young people she joined with, and just what that sacrifice meant to them, and the decision that they made, and knowing what that meant. And she said to me, I never thought I would live this long. And I'm so glad that she did, because she's amazing. But can you imagine? So that clarity of vision is so important, and I think we really need that right now. What do we do next? We need clarity of vision. We need a plan. Female leadership is imperative for a democratic future. Esther Rodriguez said that. And she couldn't be more right. She couldn't be more right. You know, it is absolutely imperative to have women at the forefront of this movement, of every movement around the world. This one really took me out because I feel this to my core. Women inspire and lead other women, and that's when change is possible. And I feel that to my core coming here and meeting all these women. I mean, to be in the company of all these women, I don't know how I got there, but I'm so grateful. And to see these women who ruffled a lot of feathers in their own countries, in Slovakia, in France, in Denmark, in Finland, in Ecuador, in Colombia. All these women went back and said, I stand with the women of Iran. I stand with the resistance. Do you think that was popular? Do you think that their constituents love that? Do you think their male counterparts love that? No, but they did it anyway. They stood tall for Iran. They stood tall for the resistance. And they took the information and they shared it everywhere they went in life. And they're still continuing to do so because they understand that what's happening in Iran is a gender equity situation, or, you know, a problem, and it's a global one. It is not just in Iran. And that's the thing that I really need people to understand. I'm going to release all the interviews that I did. I got 5 interviews while I was there, and I'm going to get some more. But I really hope that you go into this with an open mind and learn about Iran and learn what the message is and understand and speak on behalf of the third option. You know, the first option is intervention from United States or Israel. They don't want that. Second option, appeasement. They don't want that. The third option is what the resistance is all about. And they want to topple the regime themselves so they can have a secular and free and democratic society. And we should not get in the way. So I know it's easy to say, oh, we should bomb Iran. Look what they're doing. Yeah, you know, it's terrible. But like us bombing them is not going to help them. That's not how it works. and all of a sudden Trump and the United States is the bastion of the good guy. Come on, man. We're the bad guy. We're the bad guy in this story. We don't need to get involved. We want Israel bombing more countries? No, we don't want that. Appeasement? We want to give the Ayatollah more money so he can build a bigger nuclear program? Absolutely not. We need to support the resistance and let them topple the regime and stay out of the way. But the best way we can do that is to spread the right information, because there's a lot of bad information. And some people will say, well, who am I to say what the people of Iran want? And I'm not going to get involved. Well, this is what the people of Iran want. This is it. All this manipulation, all the video editing that the Shah's son has done. I mean, it's so bad. It's not even a deep fake. It's a shallow fake. You can look at these videos. They blur them out. They overdub it with audio. I mean, it's really quite sad, honestly. You would think with all that money, they could do a better job of faking the funk. But apparently, having money doesn't equate to intelligence. But we already knew that, didn't we, ladies? So the next time you hear somebody talking about this, maybe you will have some more talking points. Maybe you will say, well, if all of these women who have been leading the world were willing to make that sacrifice and say, I stand with the women of Iran, I stand with the resistance, down with the regime, then maybe we should too. And maybe we could take some notes from these women who are willing to stand up, willing to fight, willing to risk their freedom, their lives, their reputations, their careers to do what's right. Maybe we can all channel a little bit of that and do that in our own lives. And if nothing else, the next time Iran comes up, you have some more talking points. You can speak intelligently about it. And I hope that the interviews that I'm going to drop over the next few days will be as inspiring to you as they were to me. And I have so many more coming. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the support. The podcast has hit 22,000 downloads as of this morning, which is incredible. I'm so excited about that for a new podcast. That's incredible. So please continue to like, share, subscribe, all of the things. And if any of you are really good at Substack, I could really use some help. Yeah, man. What an amazing opportunity this has been. And so I just want to say thank you to Zara and Zalal and to Maryam Rajavi for having me. It was really kind of funny because I was at the first event in the morning and I was sitting around the table, and then we went to this property, and there was this big presentation, and it was a live stream from another country with hundreds of people there, and I just went in and found a seat in the back, and then Zalal was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be sitting at the front. And so in this incredible presentation, I was at the the front tables, right behind Maryam Rajavi. People talk about imposter syndrome, and I always say imposter syndrome is bullshit. It's just a patriarchy. But I was feeling a little impostery this weekend, I'm not gonna lie. But the great thing about where I was seated is I was directly behind Maryam Rajavi. So every single time a woman got off of stage after speaking, they would come and they would hug her first. And getting to see Maryam's face light up every time, and the warmth and the way she would take their hands and hug them, and the smiles and the camaraderie between the two, these women, every single one of them. I mean, some of these women have been coming for 30 years. Donna Hughes, 30 years she's been going to that event. 30 years she's been supporting the resistance. And so to see, the love in Maryam Rajavi's eyes and hearts and hands, when she was hugging every single one of these women, was one of the greatest gifts, because there's so much solidarity and power and comfort in women. We are the future. And Shan Bari said, being born a woman in Iran is an act of resistance. But I think that being born a woman anywhere in the world is an act of resistance. So stand by me, stand with these women, stand with the resistance, stand with Maryam Rajavi, because Iranians are no different than me, than you, than anybody else. We are all Iranian. We are all one. Maryam Rajavi always says, we can and we must. We can and we must. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.